I'm Kate Shumaker with OSU Extension in Holmes County, Family and Consumer Sciences educator. And welcome to today's program for the Holmes County Library of doing a salsa and pizza garden. So I know a lot of people are very interested in gardening right now and kind of growing their own food. And obviously we have a lot of time. So what better things to do than kind of grow food that's maybe a little bit more targeted than just planting a regular garden. And pizza and salsa go together very well because they have a lot of the same foods in common. Tomatoes, peppers, onions, a lot of the same herbs. So we're going to talk a little bit about perhaps growing pizza and salsa ingredients either in the ground or in containers. Obviously in front of me I have a whole bunch of containers, but if you are going to grow pizza or salsa ingredients in the ground, lots of different options for doing that. You could do, for instance, a square foot garden where you kind of divide your space in the ground into individual square foot plots. You plant one plant per square foot space. You can do tomatoes and peppers and onions and garlic and cilantro and basil and all kinds of stuff like that. You can do row gardens. You can also actually plant your pizza garden in wedges like a pizza, which is really kind of fun. I've seen directions where you can plant it along with flowers. So you would plant things like marigold to look like the cheese on your pizza, and then the tomatoes and your basil and oregano and peppers to look like the greens on your pizza. So you would actually make it look like a pizza, which is a lot of fun. For your plants, you do want about 6 to 8 hours of full sun a day. So think about where you're planting. I'm actually in my backyard right now, so some of the areas in my backyard get full sun, some don't. So I'm going to have to think about my planters and where to put them so they get enough sun. Also, to go along with my pizza, what goes better with pizza than a salad? This is actually a really cool thing we can do, is actually plant a salad in a container. So this is pretty neat. This is a container garden of salad ingredients. So there's multiple different kinds of lettuces in here, along with some parsley and some basil. I think there's some chives in here. This is one I actually bought at the store already made up. Which, the nice thing with this is you can keep this inside or outside, full sun. But then as it grows, you just keep plucking off the bigger leaves. So I would pull off some of these big leaves to make a salad. And then it just keeps growing. The smaller leaves keep filling in. You make your salad out of the big leaves, and it just keeps producing lettuce for a full season, which is really cool. So I'm going to put these off to the side here so I can make my salad later. As you see, I have all of my plants here ready to plant. And I'm going to start with my tomatoes on the end, but I'm going to run through real quick some of the things that you might need to gather. So if you're going to do container gardening, obviously you need big enough containers. So the first thing is your containers. You need to drill drainage holes in your containers. Plan for 3, 4, 5 holes per container. And then think about what you are going to put across those holes so you don't lose all your dirt. In our containers, we put some mesh across those holes so that the dirt doesn't all run out as the holes drain. So you drill the holes, you put something across those holes so we don't lose all of our dirt. You also want to think about where you're putting your pots. Are you putting your pots directly down onto a flat surface? So if I put my pot that has a flat bottom down onto a flat surface, how well is it going to drain? The answer is not so well. So we probably want to raise up our pots in some way. So provide some kind of feet or raised surface. In our pots here, we're going to raise them up just on some slate bricks. These aren't even full-size bricks, these are half bricks. So we're going to put them, for instance, on these medium pots, just 2 bricks on each pot to raise them up a little bit. On the big pot, we're probably going to use 4 bricks to give it a good sturdy base. The smaller ones, again, probably 2 bricks per pot. Just so that they have a little bit of raised distance to have good drainage on them. To plant tomatoes, there's a couple of things to think about. If you're planting them in the ground, you still want to plant about at least 1 square foot per tomato plant, tomatoes will grow really big. If you're planting in a container, you do need, again, at least 1 square foot or 1 container per tomato. So this pot is 16 inches in diameter and 16 inches deep. And I'm going to plant 1 tomato plant in the container. To do this, there's a couple of things to think about when you are planting tomatoes. Our first thought, is typically to just plant that tomato right up to here. That's the way it's planted in the pot that we got it in. That's not what we're going to do. To plant this tomato and get a really, really good root on the tomato, to get a nice big plant in the end, first thing we're going to do is open up this root ball. But then we're going to take off these lower leaves, put those to the side, and we're going to plant this tomato plant really deep. That's going to allow this base root, this base stem, to start rooting. So I'm going to put this off to the side, dig a nice deep hole in my container. Notice my dirt's really dry at the moment, so it's going to get a lot of water when I'm done. And plant this so that all of that stem is underground. I have slow release fertilizer in my soil, and I have moisture crystals in my soil, so that's going to keep the moisture in there. I'm not going to pack it down real tight because the water will do that on its own, but now I've got all of that extra stem down below the ground to help grow roots and get a nice solid base on my tomato plant. As this tomato plant grows, before it gets too tall, I'm going to want to put a stake around it or a cage to keep it upright, and as the fruits come on it, prevent it from falling over. So right now, we're going to just leave this go. When you plant tomatoes too, you're going to want to think about planting 2 or 3 varieties, because typically you might want to plant paste tomatoes or Roma tomatoes, and then you also might want to plant a larger or a juicier tomato, because we might want to make sauce, we might want to slice tomatoes to put on our pizzas, and the more varieties of tomatoes will give us a deeper version of flavor as we're making these things. Tomatoes have tons of health benefits. Tomatoes have lycopene in them. Lycopene is an antioxidant, which has been known to prevent cancers. It is what gives tomatoes its bright red color, and it protects antioxidants prevent our cells from damage. Tomatoes also have potassium, they have vitamins E and B, so lots of good things in tomatoes. Lycopene also can help lower your LDL cholesterol, or bad cholesterol, and blood pressure, so again, tons of health benefits. Additionally, the red color in tomatoes also contains antioxidants called lutein and zeaxanthin, which are known to protect eye health. And in today's society, where we are using so many electronic devices, which have what's called blue light, the lutein and zeaxanthin have been shown to protect us from the blue light from these devices. So that's another really good thing from tomatoes. So lots of good health benefits from eating tomatoes. This happens to be one of our audience members today. This is little Miss Lucy. Okay, so next we're going to plant our peppers. I've got bell peppers and we've got some banana peppers here. When you're thinking about peppers, you can plant green or red or yellow or orange. Peppers even come in purple and brown, all kinds of different colors. Believe it or not, with bell peppers, green bell peppers are immature. If you are planting red or yellow or orange or purple or brown peppers, they are all going to be green eventually at the beginning. And as you let them mature, they turn to their other colors. That's why green bell peppers are more bitter than the deeper colored ones. So today we're actually going to plant yellow peppers. And I have 6 pepper plants here. I'm going to plant 2 plants in each of these larger pots, and then 1 plant each of the banana peppers in the small pots. So unlike our tomatoes that we planted really deep, these we're only going to plant as deep as they are in their little plants here, their little pots here. So we're going to pull these out. kind of do 2 at a time here. Loosen them up so we don't damage them too much. Notice that they already have a lot of roots, so we're going to kind of loosen that up some so they can spread easily when we plant them. Now, I don't have a huge amount of soil in my pot, so I can add more here, and that's my plan. So we're going to sit these in and then add more soil to my pot around them. Again, I don't want to super pack them down, but I want to have enough so that they kind of create their space and they make their own area. Give those just a little bit of a spacing, and we'll do the same with the front pot. So we'll loosen up. Looks like I need to get 1 more pot since I have 6 plants. All right. With bell peppers, because they do come in so many different colors, we want to think too that they have a lot of health benefits from all those different colors. They have carotenoids in the yellow and orange. Bell peppers, similar to you might find in carrots, the orange coloring are carotenoids. You also would find lycopene, just like in tomatoes, in red bell peppers. And we have lots of other vitamins in just bell peppers in general. So vitamins A and C. Peppers, just like a lot of our other vegetables, are very low in calories, high in water content. So lots and lots of health benefits from eating our vegetables. Okay, let's get that one planted in there. Looks like I need a little bit more dirt and soil in this one. My agriculture friends would not be happy that I'm calling it dirt sometimes. Soil is the word. All right, there we go. So let's get those done. We'll move those 2 off to plant later. Okay, so our banana peppers, these would be used obviously on your pizza. If you're going to plant for salsa, you might want to think about planting jalapeno peppers or some other kind of spicier pepper. My husband tends to like banana peppers, so this is his choice. So we're going to pull those out upside down. Again, break up those packed in roots there. And then make sure that we get this nice and seated. Not packing it down tight, but just letting it do its thing. And the same on this one. Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk about is planting our herbs. So if you're talking about salsa or pizza, if I'm thinking pizza, the first herb I think about would be basil. So basil and tomatoes go together hand in hand, whether I'm making sauce or whether I'm slicing up basil to put on top of my pizza. Also, you can make basil into pesto if you have lots of it. So with a basil plant, we are going to think about planting 1, maybe 2 basil plants. And if I look at this one actually has 3 plants already in the pot. So I'm going to kind of move my dirt around here Make lots of space again. Loosen it up. Get that out of the way. I might want to think even about trying to move these apart a little bit more so that I can plant them a little bit more separate in my pot. Give them a little bit more space to grow. Since they're out of that little tiny pot, I can give them a little bit more space. Now, add my extra soil around them. Get them nice and upright again. Even just moving them around right now, I'm getting such good fragrance off of these leaves. As you're dealing with any of these herbs, the nice thing is you keep picking the leaves off of them to use them, and they keep growing back, which is lovely. Basil is an annual. It will die off every year, so you will have to keep planting it. You can plant it from seed or from a fresh, a potted plant like I'm starting with here. There's a fresh leaf that we're going to start with later. And give it lots of water. So sweet basil is the basil that we're typically going to use to put in our sauces and on our pizzas. There are lots of other flavors of basil, so you might want to experiment with other versions, other varieties, but sweet basil is what you're going to plant on for most of your pizza needs. Cilantro is another one that we would use in salsa. Cilantro happens to be quite a finicky herb. So typically we would recommend that you plant 2 cilantro plants or more. Again, this one has at least 3, looks like it actually has 4 plants in here already. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to open this up and separate it out into multiple plants. The thing with cilantro is it tends to do what they call bolt or go to seed very quickly. And it doesn't even want to come out. There we go. Notice how root bound this one already is. So we're going to very carefully try and pull it apart into multiple plants. There's one. And here's one. And those guys are pretty close together, so we're going to leave them be. Just give that a good root system. Just kind of put that one off to the side there. Give each one its own little space in the pot. And then plant around it. All right, so with cilantro, because it tends to go to seed very quickly, you're going to want to be very careful about not letting it get overly hot. So if you have a lot of sun coming in your area, unlike your peppers and tomatoes, which want a lot of heat, a lot of sun, cilantro doesn't like that. So you might want to think about planting this one indoors in just a nice sunny windowsill where you can control how much sunlight it gets. Or if you're going to plant it outside in an outdoor garden, you may need to continually reseed it. So plant every couple of weeks, replant it. Now it will actually seed itself. So when it goes to seed, when it bolts or makes its flowers, it will reseed itself. So that is an option. Interestingly, with cilantro, when cilantro goes to seed, the seeds of the cilantro plant are called coriander. So it makes a second, not herb, because the herbs are leaves, but the seeds are a spice called coriander. So you get kind of 2 for 1 out of that, which is kind of fun. This has been Kate Shumaker with OSU Extension Holmes County. Thanks for joining us, and stay safe.